Hey everyone, this is episode 5 of August Wisdom, 31 episodes in 31 days with deep psychology. Each one is just a short talk giving a nice back pocket piece of wisdom for you to take with you and see how it improves your life, improves how you understand yourself, how you understand others, and just makes things clearer and enables you to live a much happier, fuller life. In this episode, we're going to talk about the sacred pause. This is just a wonderful method. It's like the 80-20 of anger control and sort of emotional management is the sacred pause. Just a very simple but powerful technique for basically not reacting and not losing our temper and not just going into a fit of rage in the moment, which we'll often later regret. So we're going to talk about the technique and its applications in this episode. This is a Deep Psychology podcast. I'm Ross Edwards, author, coach, podcaster, and avid practitioner and teacher of psychology and spirituality. In listening to this podcast, you're part of the worldwide deep psychology community of tens of thousands of people undertaking profound personal transformation. You can find me on Spotify and Apple, where I release new episodes every Thursday. If you dig what I do and want to help the show grow, share this with a friend and leave a review. You can also go deeper with this work by training with me at deep-psychology.com. Let's get started. So, the sacred pause. This isn't a form of prayer. It's not a religious thing. You don't have to believe anything. The reason it's called sacred is because it's like a superior way of managing yourself, of managing your relationships, your emotions, and how you interact with other people. And I've found this is just, it's like a Swiss Army knife with lots of different attachments on it. It's just an amazing tool that is so good for so many situations, and it's ultimately so simple. But if you really implement this, you're going to just see a huge growth in all of these areas that I mentioned here. You can use this with family, friends, colleagues, difficult conversations you're having, when you feel stressed, when you feel overwhelmed, all of this. It's just wonderful. So the technique is basically when you notice that you're in a state of hyperactivation or hyperarousal. Let's say someone does something and you notice this surge of anger. What you basically do is you stop yourself from reacting for 5 seconds or so. 5 seconds or so. Your usual urge is to react, especially when you're angry or hyper-aroused in some way related to anger, right? Your usual impulse is to react because anger produces a flight or fight response. And usually in these cases, it's fight. You know, you're going to do something, you're going to say something, you're going to take some sort of aggressive action, right? What the sacred pause does is it says, no, let's like physically stop ourselves. And then let's observe the anger. Let's observe the reactions that we're having. So perhaps we're feeling it in our body. Perhaps we're having thoughts in our mind, like angry thoughts about what we're going to do or what this person has done. And we just watch all that surging up like a current, like a river, like this strong current of water through us. And we do not act on it for at least about 5 seconds until it's sort of, the initial sort of wave has washed through us a little bit and we've not acted on it. We just remain very still, like literally physically stopping here, stopping still, stopping dead, and just watching it all. And then, so it's stop, observe, and then it's decide. It's decide what is the most appropriate response here. Like, let's say someone has done something to anger me, my kid, or my spouse, or my boss, or my colleague, or whatever, a family member. They've done something, they've done something that angers us. And we notice this surge of anger. We stop ourselves from reacting to the anger. We observe it. We observe like that initial wave washing through us, our body, our mind, our angry thoughts that we're having, our thoughts of taking action, of getting revenge, of saying something. We do not act on it until we notice a diminishing of it, or it's sort of like washed through us. Then we decide and we say, well, what is actually the most appropriate response here? The angry response is usually not the most appropriate one. That's why we're doing the sacred pause. And if you've acted on your anger enough, which we all have, you'll probably realize that it's not the most, not the wisest, not the most productive way. Obviously, this doesn't mean we can never act on our anger. Sometimes we need to do something very quickly. Often we don't, though. Often we really don't. We have to decide at this point, once we've observed it to some degree, once we've stopped ourselves, we have to ask, well, what is the most appropriate response? So perhaps instead of shouting our head off at our spouse, we might say what they've done and tell them that we don't like it, but without the anger and without the condemnation and without the shouting and everything else, right? So that's a much wiser response. We might dislike something our kid has done. Let's say it's 5 minutes till dinner time and our kid just grabs some crisps from the cupboard, or potato chips, as you say in America, and they're eating all these potato chips, these crisps. So our initial reaction is to get angry and say, you shouldn't be eating those crisps because we're about to have dinner and I've spent 4 hours making it and you're so ungrateful and you don't care about me, blah, blah, blah. This response is so hardwired in us. Before we get to that, we stop, we observe, and then we decide, what do we actually need to do in this situation? Like, what is the wisest response? And the wisest response might be to just go up to them and say, depends on where they're at in their development as a child. It might be to reinforce the rules of the house a little bit and say, well, in this house, we don't eat within 2 hours before dinner time. Or, you can have some after dinner because we're about to have dinner and you're going to be full if you eat this. We're going to have a really nice meal. So you see, in the decide phase, stop, observe, decide. In the decide phase, we're just trying to have a more wiser response. And it doesn't have to be anything remarkably wise or special or eye-opening. It just needs to be a bit calmer, a bit wiser, a bit more restrained, a bit more considered, and from a place of not just acting on our brute impulses and urges to condemn or to get revenge or to take some sort of action, to say something, right? And that is literally the sacred pause. It's just 5 seconds of space of not reacting, followed by a wise response. That's what it is. Stop, observe, decide. Right? And as I said, this is just, oh man, you really need to put this into practice. Until the end of the month, I'd encourage you to try and put the sacred pause in action as much as you can. Start quite simply, with little things that, little niggles that you have that you might make like a sarcastic comment about, but you're actually kind of angry. It's sort of like passive aggressive. You might get passive aggressive about it. Take the sacred pause. Don't make the passive aggressive comment. Do something else. Decide to do something else. And then start from those situations, start going up to, the hardest stuff, which is like the people we're really close to who push our buttons, like our girlfriend or our spouse or our children. Instead of just getting angry and condemning them, calling them names and all the rest of it, we all know what happens. Stop, observe, decide. Take the sacred pause and really try and act creatively, act wisely instead of this impulsive response that we often have. And I can pretty much guarantee you that you're going to notice, your level of emotional intelligence. You're going to notice a big change in how you communicate with them. So you're no longer got that angry tone of voice, you're no longer acting on it. You're going to be in a much wiser space and a much calmer space to relate to them from. And that isn't, what you'll notice is because you're stopping this dynamic, you're not going to slide into those stupid arguments so often. Those arguments that later you regret and you ask, if only our relationship could be free of them, because we don't need them and they actually don't serve us and they're not productive. Honestly, it's just such an invaluable tool, and one that we should all really take it upon ourselves to master and to make part of all our interactions. And this is what I'm doing. I'm not perfect at it, but more and more I notice that I'm able to stop the anger response and just come into a wiser place and act from that. This doesn't mean becoming a doormat. It doesn't mean that we tolerate things that we shouldn't tolerate. But what it does mean is we're not acting automatically, right? So we can still impose ourselves if we need to. The sacred pause doesn't mean we don't impose ourselves. But what it does mean is it will do this more skillfully, right? So perhaps we can say no, and we can say that we don't like the other person's behaviour and that it stops here, but we don't need to do that with condemnation. And we can do it from a much wiser space, a much more controlled, considered space, rather than just this frantic response that's actually very disempowered and victimy in a certain way, and just perpetuates the same. It just perpetuates the argument and the problem even more. So, the sacred pause. I'm really excited about this technique, and I hope you are too. Put it in place until the end of the month and see what this can do for you. This is like the 80-20 I've found of communication, of argument management, of conflict management, of anger management. So give it a go. Tell me what you think. All right, that is episode 5 of August Wisdom. Thanks a lot for tuning in today. 8 p.m. Central European Time, 7 p.m. British Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And the numbers are just continue to grow with the Deep Psychology podcast, and it's just fantastic to see. So if you're new here, make sure to subscribe on Apple or Spotify to get the next episode tomorrow at the time mentioned, and I will continue then with August Wisdom. Thanks a lot, and I will see you soon. Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, please leave a review and share with a friend. And if you'd like to go deeper, head to deep-psychology.com to join my training. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon.